Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tell Nut Show. As I'm here, your host, we have the fabulous and wonderful Kirsha Fox. She's the author of Son of Deception and The White Leaf Child. She's an avid homeschooling mom of four, avid reader, and gamer.
And my co-host is Julia J.K. Allen, author, editor, and author coach. She's a fantasy and horror author who loves to put magic in everything. Thank you so much for joining us. J.J. Steele is a first-time debut author from Texas. She is a mother of 3 kids and a Disney addict.
Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. So, JJ, tell us a little bit about your writing journey. What got you started writing and how did it go?
Yeah, so ironically, until I decided to write the elimination trials, I had never written anything for fun. Everything I wrote was, academic papers. So deciding to write something that was completely just for me was very new and very different and scary. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you start with writing fun stuff for yourself?
It's been about 2.5 years. I started the elimination trials back in January of 2022.
Okay, yeah, that's exciting. What made you choose your genre and why? So tell us your genre and why you chose it.
Yeah, so YA dystopia. The elimination trials is YA dystopia. It's one of those things where I grew up reading like Hunger Games and Divergent, and loved those stories, loved the movies. And I was actually sitting watching Hunger Games whenever I decided to write my own YA dystopia because I wanted something new and fresh and different. I mean, there's nothing new really coming out anymore in that genre.
All right. Yeah. So having read a little bit about your book, I noticed also like maybe some like The Giver vibes with like these students and like they're really anxious about their future and being judged and watched. And, it was an interesting bit that I read. I didn't get to finish it yet though.
Ironically, I've seen the movie. I've seen the Giver movie, but I have not read the book. So I did not I didn't even put that connection together with that.
It's such a good book. I really love that book. We read it in school. So what reminds you about it? The Giver for you, Kirsha?
Oh, right. Well, her main character is a student. Okay. She goes over her past as having going through this almost militaristic education. And there's a lot of testing and some pretty hefty punishments for breaking the rules. And it was a little bit like there in The Giver as well, where like if you broke the rules, there was a pretty hefty punishment for that.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah, the Giver. I really love the ending of The Giver. Like how yeah. Anyways, I recommend reading the book. It is a great book. But
it is definitely on my TBR.
Yeah, to get back on track. What does your writing process look like when you write? How do you get from idea to then finish manuscript?
So I do a lot of plotting. Probably too much to some extent.
No such thing.
I get an idea and I'll make like a general outline, and then I'll find myself going back in and almost doing like an in-depth outline for each individual chapter.
Yeah.
Sometimes I really do think I might plot too much, but then at the same time, I'll find myself when I actually get into the story, all these other little like storylines pop up, and I'll have to get myself back on track because I've strayed a little too far.
No, we love a good plotter here. I find like most of the people that we interview are pantsers, but we are more on the plot. So we love a good plotter. Yeah. No, if I don't know what's going on next, I get writer's block so fatally bad. Yeah.
Yes.
My characters just sort of stare at each other awkwardly, and they're like, "So
now
what do we do now?
Yeah, now
what's happening?"
Oh my gosh! Right.
Some of my chapters that I don't plot, I mean, ironically, sometimes those end up being my favorite chapters.
Right.
but I still, it's like if I have to figure out how to get it back on track, or I have no idea where my story's going.
Right. And I feel like, we're allowed to like change things as we go, and we're allowed to like discover hidden stuff that we didn't realize.
Oh,
But
definitely.
like if you didn't have the ending figured out, you wouldn't have that favorite chapter, even though it's improvised and off the cuff. Is how I feel about it personally, because I'm like, yeah, I can write on the fly, but like it's because I kind of know where I'm going. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's funny. So with the elimination trials, I didn't know how it was going to end at all.
Oh, okay.
Until I literally wrote the end. Like I knew where I wanted to get up to.
Right.
But as far as like the actual ending, no idea. And what's even
So
funnier is whenever I did get to that, we then split my book in two.
Oh yeah.
So then I had to come up with a whole new ending.
Right. Yeah. End of book one. No, I wrote my first novel and then realized it was book two, and then had to write book one. And then I decided to end up rewriting book two anyways, because I was a much more better author by then too. Yes. So I was just like, yeah,
same thing.
Rewrite it.
Same thing. I have 2 books out, and they began as one book, but like they got too big, had to split them. And now I'm writing the 3rd book, and it's too thick. I'm like,
oh no, yeah. Hopefully
short stories.
Yeah. I think for a 3rd book, though, readers can forgive a little bit longer.
Yeah, it can be a little thicker. It can be a bit thicker. So this is part of like your writing process, but since this is your first book, what happened to make you go, I'm going to write this. I'm going to write a whole book. Like what lit that fire in you?
I didn't set out to write a book. I just set out to, as cliche as it sounds, I just wanted to write a story. I had no intentions on it ever going to where it's gone today. I just had an idea and wanted to get it out on paper and see like what happened.
Awesome. Yeah. There's a sort of madness that steals over you, and you have to get it out.
Yes.
All right. So for you, what is the most important part of writing?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
And that's okay.
Let's see. I guess like for me, the most important part is just to actually get it on the page. Like a lot of times I struggle with finding time to write. Like you said at the beginning, I have 3 kids, single mom. It's chaotic around here. Right. Essentially, 2 of my kids are in sports.
Right.
So for me, just the most important part of it is sitting down to do it.
Right. No, absolutely. We need to prioritize our writing time. It's so easy to just put it off and put it off and put it off because life is happening. Yeah.
It is
That's
very
a good answer.
easy.
Yeah, it is so easy. I
the
feel like
part of writing.
Yeah.
It's to sit down and write.
Yeah, it's true though, because like a lot of times, it's our passion project, so we do put it off. It does get pushed to the back burner a lot, but it's your passion project because it makes you happy and feel fulfilled and all of that stuff. So it's important to prioritize writing time to get it done. Yeah.
My struggle now is I've got too many passion projects right now, so now my struggle is
okay. Yeah. Right. No, that can be a problem for a lot of people where they have like multiple story ideas at the same time. I myself though, and it could be the ADD, but I like to jump around from project to project so that if I get kind of stale or stuck with one or don't really feel the emotion I need for that scene, I can jump to a different project and still like get writing down. But, yeah, that can be fun. So it's depending on how you look at it, it's either a problem or a good thing to have too many projects going on. So yeah. Do you find characters or plot are what you keep in mind more when you're writing?
So that question, I had to sit there and I had to think about that one. Because both characters and plot are so important. But I feel like if you have the best plot but boring characters, then it doesn't really matter. Whereas with my characters, they kind of push the plot forward on themselves. by themselves sometimes. So, I mean, for me, characters, if I have the best character in the world, I can make the story. I can't create a character with a lousy plot.
Right. No, I agree. I think for me, characters help you determine the plot once you know their motivations and stuff. So I really like to focus on characters because that's what I love the most about the stories I read. Great plot, yes. Like ideal world, you have both, yes. But I like how you say that like having a great plot doesn't mean you'll get better characters, right? But having better characters, you might have a better plot. I like that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and like, you know, with my story, Nadia, she is such a family-oriented character that I've had to put so many elements of that into the story because that's who she is. More elements than I ever would have I would put in there. References to her mom, her sister, her dad.
Right.
None of those were originally part of the storyline, but because that's who my character is and that's what she cares about, I have to reference that in the story.
Yeah. Definitely like relationships that the characters have goes a lot into the story.
Do you have a favorite author, and what is something that you think they do really well?
So it's funny. I love YA dystopia, I do. But if you have to pick one author, ironically, it's going to be Ellen Montgomery. I love the Anne of Green Gables series. They are just my heart book. I have way too many copies of Anne of Green Gable that I probably need to get rid of some, but cannot and never will be able to do. I think just the way that she pulls people into her universe is just fantastic.
What do you feel like you've learned from the writing process, having written a book?
Oh my gosh, how much just goes into it? Like before this, I thought, you write a book and then you put the book out there and you're done.
Right. Yeah.
Not you're going to go through 3 or 4 or 5, 7 different drafts and editors and cover art. And I don't know, I had this notion that books just appeared on the bookshelf and that is not what happens.
Yeah. I think that Hollywood portrays like writers and writing a book in very specific ways. So like they only ever show the like writing in a study or whatever, the franticness of getting that deadline met. But they don't show the editing process. They don't show the formatting process, everything that goes into making a book. So I feel like a lot of people when they start as authors, and maybe this is a good thing, you don't realize what you're getting into, right?
Oh, definitely.
Maybe that's a good thing, because if you knew everything that was involved, it might deter you from doing it. But it is well worth it in the end. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I cried the first time I got my manuscript back from an editor. Just the sheer amount of edits. I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I've written a terrible story.
No, not at all. I'll tell you, I put as many edits I can on every story because, like, one, that's what you take me for. But like a lot of times, edit like suggestions are not because it's bad, but just like, oh, you could add this or you could do this to make things even better, right? I understand though, because like, yeah, when you get all those red marks back and you're just like, do I even know how to write? Like, what was I thinking? But I just want to let you know, it's not you. That's the point of editing, is to like find as many things to tweak as possible.
Well, I feel like most of us learned how to write in school, and so when we get our assignments back and it's all marked up by our teachers, it usually means you did terribly and you got a bad grade. Whereas an editor is not trying to mark you down, they're trying to help you polish and improve. So they're going to mark stuff even that you got correct, technically. They're like, hey, add more, hey, add more here. Oh, this needs a touch up here. Oh, reference this here, and so it's a different thing, but I think we still feel that guilt, that teenage, that young child guilt of like, oh no, I must have gotten a bad grade at this and I'm no good. And I definitely chose the wrong profession to
Right. It's, I think that like for me, like I said, it's just like, if I'm not marking as much as I can, why are you paying me? Is kind of how I approach it, of like, this is good, how can we make it even better, right? So yeah. Anytime you get a comment, it's not because like, this is horrible, but
Yes. That being
it's
said,
an understandable feeling. Yeah.
yeah, getting your edits back is humbling. It is humbling. Like,
Right.
I thought I was a really good writer and really clean and just the best, and I was just like, oh dang, I don't know anything, do I?
Right. It is
Just
very,
mess up. But you just keep going at it, and you get more
Mhm.
experience, and you improve as you go, and your books just keep on getting better, hopefully.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So you have 3 kids. How do you make time for writing?
Oh my gosh. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. So, like I said, I have 2 of them that are in sports. I have a 9-year-old that's in taekwondo and a 5-year-old that's in gymnastics. And a lot of times I will end up sitting there writing during those times just because the 2 that aren't doing the activity, generally they get to play with their tablets or something during that time that they don't normally get to do during the week. So, I mean, there's a good couple times a week I'll get generally 45 minutes to an hour in there. Outside of that, it is just a struggle to, as soon as they go to bed, get at least 10 minutes in. At least 10
Right.
minutes in. Generally, once I get started in that 10 minutes, I'll find a groove and I'll, an hour later, have a chapter done.
Mhm.
But there's some nights that I'm sitting there like, do I have to do this right now?
Right. Right.
A little person in your head goes, "Psh, do it." Like,
Right. Yeah.
can't go right.
Especially since, now I'm advertising my book comes out in June. I'm like, okay, people expect a book 2 at some point. You're doing this now. You have to actually you have to get up and write.
Congratulations on the book coming out soon.
Oh,
Very
thank
exciting.
you.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I always love celebrating book birthdays. So yeah, I usually like go out, have dinner for do something to celebrate, make a cake.
That's
all of
exactly
that
what
stuff.
you're doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like I always like sharing the pictures of the cake is like a little way of being like my book's out. But I really just like cake. So
I think
that's
it's
why I do
important
it.
to
Yeah.
recognize all the work you did and how far you've come. And, this has been what, you said 2.5 years in the making. Like, it's a really big deal.
Absolutely.
So you should celebrate it.
I could admit I cried whenever I got my proof copy of my book. So
the first time you hold your book in your hand, it is the best feeling in the world. Like it's literally just like, oh my gosh, it's real and it happened and it's here and it's like elation.
It's your book, baby. You made this and it's a real thing.
Right, the otter holding up to me. I made this.
Yes,
That's how I feel every time. Yes.
that was
She's
me.
so proud, and I am too. Yeah. If you could tell a new author one thing, what would it be?
Well, I don't want to say don't do it, but be prepared for everything to be terrifying. I have been terrified every step of the way. Finding a cover artist, honestly, I have been through 3 covers on this book. The cover that I have now is the 3rd cover because I commissioned the first one because I was eager. Did not even it was my first draft of the book. Hadn't even been to an editor or anything.
Right.
Commissioned that one. Later on came back, don't really like this. Commissioned a second one. I was like, I like this, but I don't think it's quite what I'm looking for. Commissioned a third one. Love the third one. Sticking with it, not changing it again.
Right.
But every step is just terrifying. Finding an editor, vetting all of these editors who are like, well, yeah, I can do it. But can you though?
Right. No, vetting is a very important process. Yeah.
Anything I would tell a new author, just be prepared to spend however long you're doing this, absolutely terrified that you're going to fail.
Right. Right. No, that's good.
Do it anyways.
Do it anyways. Right. Do it afraid, but still do it. That's kind of one of my mottos in life. Of if you have anxiety, everything's going to terrify you. So you have to do it anyway.
Everything is scary the first time, and even the second or third time, it's still scary. There's a lot of sharks in the water. There's a lot to learn. and everyone is really so helpful, but like it's hard because that's the advice that they live by. Does it apply
Mhm.
to you? You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find your crew, your team, the people on your side, the ones who actually know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. But once you find your writing community, it is a great thing.
It
Yes.
is. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite part of writing?
The ending. When I
Yeah.
can finally say I'm done with this, only then I decide it's going to be a 3-book series with at least one prequel and realize I'm nowhere near the end. So
Right. No. I can totally relate to that. I think one of my favorite quotes about writing is, I don't enjoy writing, I like having written.
yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a very, very relatable sentiment of like, yeah, sometimes the writing is hard and it's a slog and it's a hardship to go through, but that feeling of having written, oh my gosh, impeccable, amazing.
Yes.
Yes, it just feels so good, and you're like, I was so productive, I got words down today. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, not me with an unfinished trilogy and like 5 different spin-offs planned.
Yes, it's a fantastic world that you've written though, Kirsha. I'm so glad there's going to be so many spin-offs. Yes, like, yeah, so pumped for that.
All right. What would you say is your least favorite part of writing?
Oh, definitely editing. I hate editing. Oh my gosh. I think I've read the first book in my series 100 times by now, and the words just blend in with each other at this point, where it's like I'm not sure if this is how this is supposed to be.
Right. You can definitely get burned out on the editing process. I know because I've been there myself. Just like with that idea of like, I need to work on my book every day, and I was editing it, and I should have just left it alone because it was fine. But it's just always that feeling of like, one more pass will make it perfect, you know. So you can definitely burn yourself on editing. And so, like, kind of when it gets to that point, that's when you know, like, okay, now's a good time for me to set it down. There's nothing else I can do with it. Now's a good time to send it off to someone else, whether it's beta readers, ARC readers, editor, you know, something like that. But I think a lot of people hate the editing process because you have to read your book like 100 times. And it's like you go from like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is interesting, to like, I'm the worst writer in the world. This is crap. Why am I going to put this in the world? Yes. But then if you keep going after the like, this is crap and I hate it, eventually you're like, okay, this is good. Again, hopefully that's the goal, right? Is to get back to the, okay, I don't hate this anymore. It's ready to go. Yeah.
Sometimes I get this mental image of like Moana, from the movie, where she's walking the same trails over and over on her island. Like, you know that she's memorized every trail. She knows that island by heart. And I feel like you're just walking those circles over and over again. You can see your footprints from the last time, because how many times you've been in the circle rereading your own book.
Right. Oh my gosh. It is definitely an exercise in patience.
It is so deeply ingrained in your brain that you're like just mind-numbingly bored reading this book again.
Right.
But you have to read it out loud. You have to read it in a different font. You have to read it backwards. You have to like get it edited and then do it again. And then you read it 100 times.
Right.
So they say that you should write the book you want to read, because you are going to read that book.
Absolutely, yes. Write the book you want to read. That's important.
And then like a year later, when you're writing that third book, you have to go back and reread that first book again for all the stuff that you might have forgotten.
Yep, the little trails of breadcrumbs that were
yes, you left yourself
3. Yeah.
So it doesn't end. Get really comfy with those books.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, but it's worth the process in the end to have an edited book.
Yes.
Even though it's kind of a nightmare.
You have to do it.
Huge practice and patience. Yeah.
It is a really sweet moment when you sigh and go, it's good enough. And you let you press send. Like,
right. When you can leave it. Yeah. What would you say influences your writing?
Definitely my personal life. It's weird to think that anything in my adult single parent 3-kid life could go into a YA novel, but there is so much of my own story that has went into this. I mean, for example, my main character, her dad is not in the story. He died way beforehand from brain cancer. I never met my own dad. My own dad died before I was born from a brain aneurysm. And I didn't even realize until after I'd written the story that I wrote myself into this book in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that with a lot of the stuff that Nadia goes through. Without giving spoilers,
Mm-hmm.
there's several things that I feel like she emotionally goes through that I know for a fact stems directly from what I've gone through.
Right.
And in some aspects, it's almost like instead of paying for therapy, I just decided to write a book.
Oh my gosh, writing is hugely therapeutic. We say that all the time on the show that, better out than in, right? With some of our thoughts, feelings, experiences, it helps you to process, to write it all out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sorry for your loss. But I feel like a lot of authors, we kind of do sprinkle little bits of ourselves in our characters. Even the characters we don't love have pieces of us, or pieces of people we know very well. So I'm not surprised that you find a little bit of yourself in your character, because I know I put a lot of myself into my characters. Yeah.
I know I've said it before, but sometimes my characters kind of stop and look at me and go like, are you going through something right now? Or you're trying to work it out?
Right. Why are you doing this to me?
Like, notice a few themes are coming up here.
Right.
Do talk?
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. Along those lines, I feel like Nadia deals a lot of like with my past emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my side projects, I feel like deals with more of like what I want in the future.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult balance to maintain.
Right. I do think that's one of the reasons why, because I write young adult a lot of times as well, but I really like young adult because like the lessons in the story are so great. Like not in the fact that you're like hitting someone over the head with a moral, but like the themes of young adult I love, like being true to yourself, figuring out who you want to be and being that person, doing what's right now, what's easy. Like those things that you struggle with for the first time as a teenager, I really love writing and addressing those themes though, and doing it in a way that it's not like I'm lecturing you on my soapbox about how you should live as people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely publishing my first book, getting it out, but even now, I feel like I've come far enough that I'm working on 2 books at the same time, but in 2 different stages. Like I'm currently editing book 2 while writing book 3, and being able to differentiate those stories and not combining them and getting the plots messed up. I feel like that's definitely shown where I've grown from, with book 1, I had to focus just on that to now I can differentiate different stories and keep my characters separate and tell the stories and not get them mixed up.
Yes, totally understand that.
As a writer of twisty plots, I completely agree with you. It is a victory itself to keep track of all these little threads, all these little shadowing bits, all of these Chekhov guns that have to fire off. Like it is a feat to keep track of all of those and have a satisfying ending.
Absolutely.
I think my outline. Oh, sorry.
That was all. Oh, yeah.
I think my outline for book 1, by the time it was all said and done, just the outline by itself was like 20 pages. Right. Just because I had to go through and literally count day by day, like, okay, what happened so that everything matched up at the end and continuity was correct.
Absolutely. You have
It was very easy for me to go like, okay, well, it's Tuesday, and then it's like 4 days later, but it's Monday. And it's like, wait.
Right.
Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of little details to keep track of,
Mm-hmm.
especially as you
Yes.
start adding books to the series and, everything that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot. So, yeah, mastering that, you can just be like, yes, I got it. I
I
got
think I
it
saw a
down. Yeah.
quote once from another author who said that she had done a very good job with her timeline, and she realized she'd accidentally left one of her characters pregnant for like a year and a half.
Oh, no. Right.
So she had to go back and fix it. She's like, oh no, but yeah, all the little things. When was the last time they ate? How hungry are they? How many days has it been from this? Is this enough time to recover from this traumatic event? Is
Right.
this
Right.
like
No, traveling's the worst because I'll have them travel, and then I need them get to another location. And I'm like, I can't write anymore about the daily slog through the woods. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you
Yeah,
write the travel through all the way south when it took us 3
mhm.
days to get to the middle, but you don't want to write the same stuff for their journey south.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it
It's
can be
hard to
really
know. Like,
tricky.
do I tell this and do a time jump, or do I
Right.
show it more and
Right.
maybe
Right.
expand on the world a little bit, but or should I just cut it out?
Yeah.
Just jump.
Yep. It's a
It's
lot
hard
of
to know what the balance is for
yeah.
that.
Okay. Time for my favorite question. Do you have writing advice that you hate?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I do. And I hate it because just for me, I don't like it. It's good advice,
Uh-huh.
but I hate it for me personally.
Right.
And it's not editing as you go.
Okay.
Because I struggle, especially whenever I find a plot hole as I go, to not go back and fix it.
Yeah.
I've been told, put it on a sticky note, go back and fix it. I hate that. I can't do it. I have to fix it right then and there.
Okay. Yes, I have given this advice to others, but with the caveat that what works for you best. So if it does work for you, do your thing. I think the reason why people give this advice is because creating is just generating as many ideas as possible, and any idea is a good idea because it's an idea, and we're not really judging or being critical of that. And it's really, editing is the opposite, right? We're judging everything, we're being critical of everything, trying to find the best stuff. And for me, it's so hard for me to switch back and forth. So if I put on my editing hat too soon, then it kind of kills my creativity a little bit. And that's why I give that advice in general. But I can totally see what you mean of I know I need to change this in the past, so I'm just going to change it now. Those kind of things, I get really this is my hill, about too. Yeah.
I absolutely edit as I go. I'll usually read the last page or the last chapter of what I wrote before, and it kind of helps me slip back into that world, back into that mindset, step off from where I left off last, because I have the memory of a goldfish. I was like, what did I even write last time? Where am I? Especially when you've already heavily outlined, you just need to figure, okay, where was I? And step off from there. That being said, I have recognized sometimes if I get stuck on a detail, I need to come up with a name for somebody and I just can't think of a name right now, or if there's a plot point where I'm not entirely sure how they do it yet, I will just bracket it, say something magical happens here, and keep on going so that I'm not tripping myself up. I think the idea behind the advice is that you're not continually rewriting chapter 2. Continually rewriting, not polishing chapter 2 when you haven't reached the ending yet, and you don't even know if you're going to keep chapter 2. Or maybe you'll have to go back and repolish chapter 2 anyway. So, and heaven knows you're going to do 100 rounds of editing after the thing's even finished. So if you have the opportunity to write, you should do that. But again, sometimes editing is just part of your process, and embrace it.
Yeah, that's always the caveat. If it works for you, then do it. Yeah. So we want to let our audience find out where they can find out more about you and your books online. So here's the place to tell us your social media and website.
Yeah, so my biggest presence is going to be on Facebook or TikTok. I've been told I need to do a Bookstagram. Haven't done that. Don't really know anything about Instagram. biggest updates are going to be Facebook, TikTok. Eventually, I'll get a website together at some point. Yeah.
Are you just JJ Steele on social media?
JJ Steele. Author JJ Steele on TikTok and just JJ Steele on Facebook. All my updates go on there. Generally, TikTok gets them first, and then Facebook gets them.
Okay, sure. Well, we do want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. It's been an absolute great time talking with you.
I've loved it. Thank you. I'm glad I didn't talk myself out of it a million times today.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand the nerves, especially when you're newer to the shows.
No.
Great. Yeah.
Julia asked me, like, hey, do you want to do a show with me? And I'm just like, me? like hiding.
Right.
But yeah, it gets easier. It gets easier the more you do it. And by all means, I hope that you get lots of interviews from, because as an author, you have to figure out a way to put yourself out there and get people to hear about your books and you. So, just get used to it.
I try to think of it in terms of like my author persona. So when
it's your author persona.
When I do public speaking or anything like that, where I put on my author face, and then it kind of just helps me to keep the energy up because it's not me. You know what I mean? It's not me that's doing all the talking and the anxiety inducing stuff, but author Julia can handle it. Author J.K. Allen can go out there and give a talk. So
yes, I've made the joke more than once that I'm probably going to develop personality disorder between there's me and then there's JJ. JJ will do this, but will not.
Yeah, right.
That absolutely happens. You go to a book signing convention and like you've got to put on your author persona, and that author persona knows what she's doing. She's put together. She's gracious. She's got a great signature. Like
right.
Yeah. And then you can go back to your room and fall to pieces.
Yes.
Yeah. I always need a day to recover after big speaking events. It's like my adrenaline crashes, and so do I, and I just have a couple days to recover after any big speaking event or author event. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and thank you to everyone who's listening along at home. Remember, there's more than one way up the mountain, and our next episode will air Friday as usual. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find us on social media at The Tell Not Show or email us at thetellnotshow@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and liking. We appreciate all the support. Julia J.K. Allen is an author, editor, and coach and can be found at hijinksrudder.com.
Kirsha Fox is an author, avid reader, gamer, and mother to 4, and you can find her at kirshafox.com. Thanks and see you next time.